Hi everyone. Um, Good afternoon, and welcome to today's session. That's the second edition or the second session of our starting a career or second session um, of our career series event. Right, we had the first session of the career series event 2025 in on Friday precisely, and today Sunday we are having the second session, and it's really amazing to have every one of you on the call. We see that we have a few people on YouTube already, and a few people are joining us on Restream. That's the virtual studio that we are using to manage um, this virtual experience, right? We still expect a couple more people to begin to join us. So we'll take a few minutes. If you can hear me clearly, can you just send your favorite emoji or say something in the chat box so that I can be very clear, or I can be very sure that okay, the numbers are doubling almost every minute. If you can hear me very clearly, please drop an emoji or drop a text confirming that you can hear me. Okay. Thank you so much. I can see that you all can hear me. So we'll do something very quickly. We are less than 100 on the we're less than 100 right now. I mean, it's just 2 minutes, I know, right? Maybe people think perhaps be having says or doing African time or something, but unfortunately not. We started at the right time. In fact, 2 minutes before 4 p.m. So let's do something very quickly. We'll spend the next two minutes waiting for a few more people to join us. So another timer will come up. But while that is coming up, you can spend a few time or spend that 2 minutes trying to encourage or remind your friends, classmates, schoolmates, and other co-ambassadors that you know that we started this session, and they should join us. Right. So 2 minutes really. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Um, yeah. So we spent 2 minutes, and I hope that you have, in all diligence, reminded your friends, reminded everyone that you've had to, or that you need to remind that we are back, right? And they should join us. Um, For those of you just joining us, welcome, welcome. It's really, really nice, really, really great to have you here for today's session of the Cowrywise Campus Ambassadors Career Series. Whether you're a campus ambassador or you're joining us, or this is your first time having to be with Cowrywise Campus Ambassadors for a virtual event, right? We are really excited to have you around. Um, just some background knowledge. Cowrywise is a savings, or Cowrywise is an investment management company, right? We are into the business of helping young Nigerians and Africans manage their wealth, and we have the Cowrywise Ambassadors community as an extension, or as a part of our mission, right? As a company, right? The ambassadors community sits on three pillars: financial literacy, career development, and building a network of quality individuals, right? We are present in about 463 tertiary institutions in Nigeria. So I mean, I say it a lot that think of any Nigerian institution, whether polytechnic, whether university, institute, college of education, and I will show you at least two, three, four, five campus ambassadors in these schools, right? So yeah, that's how big the community is, and we've had a track record of impact over the last couple of years, and we are inviting you to be a part of that impact. So you can just visit careers.com/, ambassadors just right after the call or after the session to learn a bit more about the ambassadors community. Um, and Career Series in itself is a program, or is a part of our mission to is a part of our mission to help people grow in their respective or chosen career paths. In fact, we go as granular as helping people figure out what they really want to do. We've seen people come and sometimes they're not very sure about how to get started. They don't even know what career path to pursue, right? And we decided that, or we thought that, how can we best do this at a larger scale? We do this before now. We used to do these things on a one-on-one basis. We do these things as a combine, right? But we realized that there's a lot more people, and then it would not. It's not optimal to do that. I mean, one after the other. Why not do a series of events like this that would help people find themselves, that would help people really, really know, really, really understand what they want to do, and I'm sure them the different parts, the different things they need to do to get to that very point, right? And of course, we can't do this alone. We started this series last year. We had starting a career in design, starting a career in software engineering. Design was led by the design lead at Cowrywise. Software engineering was led by a software engineer at Microsoft at the time. Starting a career in finance was led by, or was facilitated rather, by Idris Ayinde, who was an employee at Ernst& Young in UK at the time. It's no longer at Ernst& Young right now. We've also had human resources by Ruth. Ruth was at Bloomberg at the time. I think she's still at Bloomberg anyways. We also had Moniolua from Bloomberg, who facilitated the starting a career in data analytics session, and then she covered other verticals from data engineering to data science and data analytics itself. I think she also spoke a bit on business intelligence or business analytics, right? We also had Temilade, who was at Google at the time. I learned that she's no longer at Google. She facilitated the starting the career in marketing session last year. On and on and on and on. And then we've seen different testimonies. We've seen the stories of impact that kind of session, or that session, or the different sessions rather, contributed to people's lives. Right? We got feedbacks. We've seen people had to go back to rewatch the videos just to redraw or remap their career trajectory, right, based on the lessons that they learned from that video. And it only makes sense for us to double down and have it at a much more larger scale, right, this year. And that's why we are having to have it on YouTube, so that even right after this call or after this session, you can always come back to rewatch the session, right? The same link that you got via your mail or via WhatsApp or via any channel you got the link to this YouTube session from, you can always come back, just click on that link, and you always get access to watch this session, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the community is fast growing. It is impact driven, right? People would often say, "Oh, that's a social It's the ambassadors community seems like a social enterprise. I mean, I wouldn't argue, right? But I'm very confident. I'm very bold to say that it's impact driven, absolutely impact driven. It's an impact driven community of ambitious students. For those of you just joining us, I'm repeating this just for you, right? The ambassadors community is a fast-growing community, an impact-driven community of ambitious students and young professionals across 463, precisely 463 tertiary institutions in Nigeria. And they are all committed, or rather, we are all committed to personal growth, financial literacy, and career development, right? And over the last couple of years, rather, we've hosted and will continue to host amazing events, networking opportunities, mentorship programs, and even exclusive learning perks. And we are not just doing these things just to tick a box. We are doing these things with a sense of impact at heart, a sense of impact at mind. And I'm sure you must have seen this from the way we've planned the different phases of this event, for instance, right? Just yesterday, we were at the office with about 60 campus ambassadors, where we had a really fantastic time between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Hanging out and discussing career, discussing professional development, discussing even the pettiest of the pettiest things, really, right? As long as we know that they have tendency to impact our lives. So again, if you are not an ambassador yet, this is your sign to join us, right? And it would, just like many people, just like most people who have been a part of the community before now, this will most definitely be the best decision you would make as an undergraduate, as a recent graduate, or even as a copper, right? So please do ensure that you join us. Um, so yeah, straight into the session. We Okay, I can confirm that we have Gbonjubola on the call. Really good to see that Gbonjubola joined the session even before we started the session, before we started the call, right? And that further validates our interest, our keen interest in wanting to share a story, wanting to help you learn, wanting to help you be a part of be a part of this session and get the most from this session, really, right? And we're not just thanking her for showing up early, we're also thanking her for really for particularly agreeing to be a part of this, right? It's not every day you get to see somebody like a Gbonjubola show up for a virtual event like this. I mean, just earlier I mentioned to her that while I was trying to read up about her some few years ago, I think 2 years ago or thereabouts, I couldn't find a lot of what's it called, text or videos on YouTube. I think I found 2 or 3 videos on YouTube, one by a former company and two by some other random people, and then a few articles, and then of course a personal websites, right? Which was this. I mean, those were the only information I could get, and then from a friend she had previously worked with. So having her on this call is really something that we cherish, we treasure, and we really do not take it for granted. Um, Very quickly, as much as you know, she's a senior software engineer at Netflix. I'm sure you're already aware. And but of course, she didn't just start at Netflix. She had previously worked at Access Bank in Nigeria, United Bank of Africa in Nigeria, Florida Wave in Nigeria, and the rest of Africa. And she's built her way up with hard work, resilience, continuous learning, right? And along that way, along that journey, she has gained vast experience in building scalable systems, navigating career transitions, and most importantly, excelling in this competitive industry. That's the tech industry, right? And beyond being a software engineer, I can sense that she's very passionate about helping aspiring people or helping aspiring engineers, or yeah, the younger generation really find their way, right? And also passionate about sharing real world insight. As much as you might not find so much of that online, from our interactions, from our conversations, it was obvious that she was really keen on wanting to do this with us, right? And I mean, who better person to have than Gbonjubola do this for us? Before we bring her in, I know that you most likely would have a lot of questions about how to get started, how to transition, industry trends, how to unlock different opportunities, and all of those things. But trust me, she's the right person for this. She has answers to all of your questions. But while you must have jotted out these questions beforehand, I would like or indulge you to, or rather, yeah, excuse me, I would encourage you to pay rapt attention while she speaks, and if you have further questions, you can just jot them down, and then when it's time for us to take in questions, you can just we would inform you how we intend to go about questions and answers. Um, so if you're excited about having Bojibola on the call, can you just share your send in your favorite emoji in the chat box so we can have her join us right away? React with your favorite emoji. I mean, rather, send in your favorite emoji in the chat box. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Bonibala. You have the floor now. Um, okay, yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I was mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Timmy. Thank you for the intro. It was such an interesting way. When I even saw your post on LinkedIn, I was like, okay, Timmy, why are you writing me up, gassing me up this much? But yeah, I really appreciate all the kind words. I appreciate the acknowledgement of my hard work because, it's easy to say, oh, she's just been lucky and all of that, but yeah, it's also good to see fellow Nigerians rooting for you, people trying to also learn from you, and I'm really grateful. I also have like a short Cowrywise story because last week my sister, who is still a student in uni in Nigeria, earlier this year we started discussing about saving, and I told her, oh, you have to save every month. And then, as school student, she was messaging me last week to ask for quick something, and then I said, okay, how much have you saved so far? Did you open the account? I just said just open the savings wallet. And then she said, yeah, I already did. And then I said, okay, send me a screenshot and let me see how you've saved. And then it was Cowrywise app she's using, and then she sent it to me. So that was really nice. Thank you for all you do. She's like, oh, I save this amount weekly, and then I was like, okay, now that I see you are really serious about your savings, now I'll help you. I'll give you something, but at least you are really helping also students, because at the end of the day, when you have the job, when you make the money, if you don't know how to save it, then at the end of the day, you would not live a good life. So it's an important thing you are doing. And thank you for this platform. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. And yeah, I'm happy to meet everyone virtually. And yeah, let's get into it. I will share my screen quickly. Yeah. Let me know when you see it.
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Okay, yeah. So thank you again. As Timmy mentioned today, I'll be speaking about starting a career in software engineering. I know everybody that is in the audience now are in different stages. Maybe some are students, some are already on graduated, some are already in the job, early career, and yeah, I will do my best to try and share experience that will be useful for different group of people. And yeah, and like they said at the end of the presentation, I'm more than happy to also answer your questions. So please don't keep anything, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions. So yeah, this is what I'll be going through today. First, I'll be going through my journey into software engineering. I believe this is very important because if you call another software engineer, they will probably give you also similar things I will give you in other sessions, talk about software engineering, the part, the skills, and all of that. But what is unique to me is my journey. And also for me, um, I think someone said they can't see my screen. I don't know, maybe you can help with that. Um, also for me, I always love to hear other people's story. Um, I always love to hear other people's story. So for me, I believe there's a lot to learn about people and their experiences, because when you relate, then you know the possibilities even though you don't have similar parts, people would walk through different parts, but there would be one or two things to pick. So I will start with that and then go into the software engineering career, talk a little bit about roadmap, what I expect, what I would say, even though there's really no manual to how to do career, but like what can be your basic guide, and also how to get the dream job, and then we can end it with questions and answers. So thank you. I think you can see my screen. I hope so. So on to the next. First, about me, Timi already gave background on what I do, where I work. I'm a senior software engineer currently at Netflix. Before now, I used to work with Adyen. Adyen is a fintech company all over Europe and all over the world generally, but the head office is here in the Netherlands. Before then, I used to work with Flutterwave, and I will get into more details about my career transition as we go. Also want to say that I studied all the education I have today. They are both from Nigeria. I attended Lautech for my BSc and then Unilag for my MSc. I'm married and I'm a mother of two amazing kids. So next, about my journey. So when I think about my journey, I think about different things. I think about how I started, which is in terms of education, like where did I study, how did I choose what I studied. I think that's probably not a question for most of you because you're already in the path, maybe even not computer science, but these days you can actually do anything. You just need your BSc. You don't have to be a computer science graduate before you can be a software engineer. So is an heavily skilled profession. So terms of education, like I mentioned, I went to Lautech and I have my BSc in computer science. And then I went to Unilag. I see fellow Ladukites already making noise. Yes. And then I went to Unilag. I did my MSc in Masters in Information Technology, and that was already when I was working. But in terms of experience, I would say after I graduated from Lautech, I went for my NYSC, and after NYSC, I got my first job at Access Bank. But if we skip back a bit, in my uni days in Lautech, what did I do? How did I kickstart my career there? As a computer science undergraduate, you are already in the line, but there are also other things that I would say already helped me when I was deciding on what to do after I graduated. So, first thing first is we have these programmers units. I don't know if they still have it. So even though, because most of the things you do, I went to a public school and you already know we probably don't have a lot of infrastructure. So most of the coding things you do, you write on paper. So this programmer unit is the only time where I could really code and see my code run most of the time. Aside, maybe you have like projects and all of that. So I have a group of friends that we work together. All of us at the end of the session, we always, stay back in school for like maybe 2 weeks to do programmers units. We were learning C# then. And that was interesting because that was my first introduction to real object-oriented programming. And then I went for industrial training in 400 level, and I did my industrial training in Osun State, the state house, the government house, where we had introduction to web design, introduction to networking, basic thing, introduction to database. So we're doing Microsoft Access because that was what the state used to understand database, to introduce us to it. So we were moving through those departments during my industrial training. So, but then my supervisor then during industrial training gave us tasks to build websites for each local government. So I built one, it was just a fun project. It wasn't something that was live. So just to practice everything we've learned, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all those things. And I would say that was my first real coding experience. I felt like I could really build something, and that felt really good. And while I was also doing industrial training, I've been hearing a lot about Java. Then I told my parent, I said, oh, what if I would like to, now that I'm interested in coding, maybe I can try to learn Java also. And then I registered at Carox, Nigeria. I did some, like, the basic course for Intro to Java. And that was also very nice. So that was the first time I got to write Java outside, because in school, our syllabus does not include Java. And then that was how I picked up Java a bit. But I didn't do a lot. It was mostly like learning about the basic things, for loop, the encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, those kind of concepts. So, but I would say they are really things that got me interested in programming. So after school, after I did that in NYSC, unfortunately, I even lost my laptop, so I couldn't do much after school, thanks to situation in Lautech sometimes. So after I graduated and I did NYSC, I got accepted to Access Bank Training School. And then after the whole training school period, we got to the job, and then they were asking, what do you want to do? And then I said, oh, maybe coding, because I've experienced it before. So it wasn't the most interesting department, to be honest, because things were just not in order. But I think that really helped me. Choosing that was also like the first career choice I really made, to say I want to be a software engineer. And I would say I learned everything I knew, practically on the job, because what I knew before could not really build a project. It was just like puzzles, right? So at Access Bank, I was able to put it together. And luckily for me, at a point, they brought in some engineers from India, because at that time, Access Bank was not heavy on Java. They had some Java projects that the people that built it already left. And they also feel Java is a good language. So they brought some experts from India, so to say. And then I was working closely with them, because, of course, even though I'm in the department, I can't really own a project of my own yet. So my manager said I should do their business requirement. I should be, because I'm Nigerian, they have like the barrier, they don't know who to talk to. So if they need database access, and they want talking with people, and then I was helping them, and that way I was getting closer and closer to the code. I was seeing how they were building the method, how they were thinking about it, how they were putting pieces together. And I think that was also what now kick-started my interest. At the end of the project, my manager said, oh, now then build this feature, add this feature. And then when they left, that became my code. And then that was how I started to, keep building on the project, and then building my skills day by day. And one thing I would say that helped me also in Access Bank was that I had a challenge with, like, some people would we were in the same team. They don't want to babysit you because you are both on the same level. I have somebody that was already experienced, that when I had some things like, okay, so what do you know about schemas? So every time I want to ask him something, to be honest, I try to read and read and read and read before. I don't like to sound stupid. So I try to read and then go to him with plenty options and say, oh, I read about this. This is what I think we should do. And then he can then advise, which I think is actually a training for me when I think about it at the end of the day. Because if he keeps giving it to me, then maybe I would not have grown. So I would say that's one lesson I took from my first career, which is you also have to show that you really want this knowledge. Look for it. You have to be curious, and then don't you should not wait to be spoon fed. You have to try and do some research first, even though it wasn't the most palatable way of saying, oh, sorry, I can't spoon feed you. But at the end, in hindsight, that was what really helped me. So from there, I moved to UBA, and then I moved to Flutterwave. After a while, I was trying to relocate to Canada. I joined like a recruitment company. I was looking for a job in Canada actually when they told me about an opportunity at Adyen. I don't know anybody that made that move from Nigeria. So I was just like, okay, let's try it. But I've heard a lot about Adyen while I was working at Flutterwave. So I knew it was a good company, and that was when I went for it. Did several rounds of interview, even had to go for like the physical one in the US because twice I was denied visa to come to the Netherlands. Very long story. But at the end of the day, I got the job, and that was how I relocated back in 2019. So I was in Adyen doing my thing. After a point, one of my friend there moved to Facebook, and then he would not let me rest. He was like, "Oh, you have to join Fang, do this, lead code." He would be harassing me that I'm not solving challenges. And then I was like, "Okay, now I want to get Fang." And then I tried like couple of, I tried Google, Amazon. Of course, I chop breakfast. But at the end of the day, I stopped trying because at that point I was like, okay, maybe I should just calm down. And then a recruiter from Netflix reached out to me, and then I went through the whole interview process, and then I got the job. So I feel like, okay, maybe it was just. And another thing I would say I learned from that was, even though I was trying, I was preparing for Netflix. I didn't know. I thought I needed a job immediately. But at the end of the day, I was glad I was preparing because I couldn't have gone through those stages of interview with Netflix if I had not been pushed by someone to have the ambition to join Fang. So I think that was quite it about my journey. There are a lot of other details, but that was how I got made the steps from Access Bank to UBA, Flutterwave, Adyen, and now I'm at Netflix. If you have any question about that, we can take it more later. So, but yeah, moving on to the next important point, which is why we are here. What is software engineering? Because today we are talking about having a career in software engineering. So, what does it mean to be a software engineer? What do software engineer mean to you? To me, I would say software engineering is designing, is building, is maintaining, because designing in terms of before you even start engineering a software, you have to already think about it, make design, not just the UI. You are thinking about design in terms of also backend, depending on which type of the project you are working on. You are making design in terms of the pipelines, in terms of the DevOps infrastructures. Um, Before you even build, it's like the foundation before the actual blocks start getting on. And then we have the building part of it, where you now start writing your code and running them, testing them, making sure they are product ready, they are production ready, and that they could really be reliable, they could be scalable, they could be secure. A lot of things you have to consider in terms of building also. And at the end of the day, after you go live, you also still don't leave it like that. You have to keep maintaining that software. So it's a whole life cycle. I know in uni usually there are courses about the software life cycle, different kind of models. I'm not going to go into that today, but yeah, basically this is what it means. You are designing, you are building, and at the end of the day, you're also maintaining. It requires a lot of creativity because even though if you have a problem and you have 5 engineers, they would implement it differently because they are using their own creativity to solve the problem. So it requires you to be a creative person to be able to be a software engineer. You also have to be someone that is not tired of learning, that would like to continually learn, because technology changes a lot. Today, maybe you're writing, it's even in the JavaScript world. I don't know how people stay up to cope with that, because one day you're using this framework, next day you're jumping to the next framework. For me, at least, I've been a lot of stability in terms of Java, but also Java versions changes because there are times where maybe you are building one you are writing one code now, maybe for loop, you are writing for tomorrow, you are changing it to something else to optimize it. Your code becomes even more optimized, more stable. So you have to also keep up with the trends in terms of the program you've chosen. Like, what is the new thing? What can I do better? How can I improve? And all of that. Sometimes they also deprecate things. Maybe if method used to be there, now it's gone. This is now the new method. So you have to keep up to date with these things. And lastly, also innovation. And also, we are talking about solving real world problems, right? You are solving a major problem like that people really have, and you are making global impacts. Think of applications like maybe Facebook, Instagram, how it connects the whole world wherever you are. You are really solving a real life problem. You're making global impact. And that's the interesting thing, because you can sit in your living room in Nigeria and write a code that everybody in the world is using. That's really mind blowing. And I think this is what engineering really means to me. And I just went to the web to get like the types of software engineering roles there are. I'm sure there are even lots more, maybe similar things but with different names. But this is what we have. We have front end engineer, as you know today, people that worked on the front end interface. We have the back end, people that are working on the back end of the product. Front end in terms of what the fuel looks like, the flow, and all of those things. Back end, you're talking about how you actually do your API in terms of how you collect the data from the back end, because you're like middleman. A back end engineer is like a middleman between a front end engineer and the database, kind of, because wherever you collect from the front, you are dropping somewhere, or you are picking from the back and returning to the front. So the handshake, how those things work. You also have the full stack engineer who would combine these two roles into one. We have the DevOps engineer. Now we don't build on. I remember when I just joined Access Bank, we have a um, physical data center. And one of the things my manager ensured we know how to do is how to set up a server. You have to build a server from the scratch and get the IP, be able to connect to it. That was actually fun learning, because now that I think about clouds, I can imagine how many servers are in one room, that is serving all these requests. And then with the way we work now, nobody we have DevOps engineer, the way you churn out your code, how does it run and deploy itself, the continuous integration, continuous deployment, all of those things, they are quite important. And the AI part of it, that's even mind blowing. How the other day I was reading about somebody talking to Chat GPT as their therapist. Those are very deep AI thing. Like, you've learned how these things work. How um how you can advise someone, a lot of data learning, a lot of those things. Engineers that work on that, they are AI engineers, they are artificial intelligence, they are just smart based on, they build these engines that can almost act as people. And I think that's an awesome job. We have the video game developers, people that develop video games. We have the quality engineering, in big industries, all those things, you need quality engineers that make sure things are working. Even in IT, before a product goes out, how you can make sure that these products are optimized, they are what's going live. They check to make sure that it's up to the expected requirement, it meets the objectives and all of that. And they do this a lot with maybe automated testing and all of those things. So those are quite important. We also have the data engineers who are in charge of our data, because data is such an important aspect of everything. When you are talking about front end, you are collecting data. When you are talking about back end, you are maybe retrieving or saving data somewhere. When you are talking about every part of these things, there is data moving. In terms of AI engineers too, they also work on data to improve learning and all of that. So this is also a very important career path. mobile developer, everybody carries, we can almost not survive without mobile phone now. So people that develop these apps are help us, they are very important. The last one, security engineers, we're talking about people that make sure that what we are doing, it's not being hacked, that we are secured. You are paying online because everything is now very fast and moving fast, and to make sure that these things are done well, you need engineers that really know how to secure your data, how to make sure that your communication via API, all those things, they are very encoded well. You are able to decode them. So there are a lot of opportunities in software engineering, in short. And even though we have this name, you will see different companies who have different roles, but most of them are going to be related to this. It could be like maybe a sub role of maybe AI engineering, and all of that. So these are like the major roles in software engineering. If you are considering a career there, you are probably thinking of one of these or something related. And what about skills? Now that I mentioned all those roles, what skill do you need? In terms of skills, to be honest, it depends on which field you are going to. If you're a front end engineer, maybe you're thinking about the JavaScript side of things. If you're a back end engineer, you're thinking about like other kind of language that will help you build your APIs. If you are a security engineer, there's other things you're thinking of. DevOps engineer, you're probably thinking about tooling like Kubernetes, like Docker, how to make sure those things, scripting languages, and those things. So it depends, but I've summarized them in some of the most useful that will be generic, which is programming. Programming is something that you probably need for all of this role, because even if you are not writing big program, you are probably writing scripts on top of, to make things faster. It could even be a small job that you run daily, maybe to check if there is a security glitch or something. So there's a bit of programming in all of this career. And also we have the data structure and algorithm, which is the next level. If you can program, then how do you optimize this program to run, to be scalable? Because when you build an app and it can be used by 10 people, so what happens when it becomes 10,000 or when it becomes 1 million? Because like I said, you are solving real world problem that is global. So you have to build algorithms and solutions that would be scalable enough, that will be reliable enough. That means anytime you call it, it should be available, all those things. So you have to make sure that you understand data structure and algorithm. And lastly, you are thinking about troubleshooting. To be honest, the list is inexhaustive, but I just picked out some of the ones that are very important, because when there's always going to be an issue, that's one thing I can tell you. As a software engineer for over 10 years now, I know there will always be an issue, but how fast are you able to troubleshoot and debug this issue? And it's rare to see a software engineer being fired because something went wrong. You will see maybe software engineer being fired because they don't even know what they've done in the first sense. Maybe they don't even understand the issue, or maybe it took so long and there was a lot of damage, because we are, at the end of the day, we are humans, right? We are going to make mistakes. So how are you able to troubleshoot and debug this issue is also quite important. So that's what I would say on the technical side. And on the soft skill side, because that's the other thing, no matter how good you are, this is one thing I've heard a lot in my career, that we can teach skills. People can learn how to do skills, but it's difficult to teach these soft skills, right? You can't teach people how to communicate because it's already part of them. They also use it outside their tech life. They use it in their family life, in their relationship with their friends, and all of that. So communication is quite important. How are you able to share your idea? Because like I said, if you give 5 engineers, which would be like, at least in a team you have 4 engineers, If you give them the same problem, they are going to solve it differently. But how are you able to communicate your idea in the sense that the other person understands it, and you can now find a midpoint, or probably take one because you both understand that one is better than the other. So that's communication. Are you able to collaborate? Because, like I said, we have the front end, you have the back end, you have the security. Everybody works together for a single goal of launching like a good project, of a building like a good product and all that. So how can you collaborate with these people? It's also important. How can you adapt? Technology keeps changing. Are you able to quickly adapt to the changing tech? Are you stuck on, because there are a lot of people, when they say, oh, we are migrating to this, they're like, oh no, I can't do that because this is what I'm used to. That doesn't happen in tech. You have to be fast to adapt. You need to be empathic, because customers will have issue. If you don't have the empathy, how do you then solve it? How do you put yourself in their situation? And lastly, time management, because there's always going to be things to do. How are you able to quickly solve this issue and prioritize accordingly to say, oh, this is what I need to do, how long? Otherwise, you can stay forever. And also products, if you don't launch, time is also important when you're launching a product. So you should not hold your team back in terms of that. So which is why time management is also important for a developer. And how do I get these skills? Probably you already know it. You can have this one's degree, you can self-learn. There are a lot of platform, boot camps, and all of those things where you can get these skills. Whatever you want to do today, there will be like road like courses, maybe becoming a front-end engineer. They will teach you what you need for that role, for a back-end engineer, for all those things you can get it. And also certification, like if depending on the field you are. To be honest, as a developer, I don't think this role really cares so much if you are a software, like a front end or back end engineer, in terms of certification. Nobody is checking if I'm Java certified, really, to be honest. They will give me real life code and then I'll solve it. But if you're a security engineer, for instance, or a DevOps engineer, then you're thinking about a lot of certification you need to do to show your proficiency in those skills. And there are different platforms where you could get it. We have like the free ones like Coursera, the free code camp. For in terms of data structure and algorithm, we have the lead code and all those things. And lastly, how do you get this skill? You need experience. Because for instance, those soft skills, it comes also, you develop it with time. You get more confident to be able to communicate your ideas, because as you grow, then you know what to expect. Even you can collaborate better, you know who to talk to when something happened and all of that. So I think those are the important things in this sense. How can you get it? These are the ways I would say you can get your skill. And in terms of roadmap, like I say, disclaimer, this is not like like one way fit, to be honest. This is just take this like a guide in a way, because like I said, no two people's journey are the same. So a lot of my colleagues in Netflix now, the way we started our careers are different, right? So your career is also going to be different from mine, but I think this would guide you in a way to get where you want to get to, which is learn the basic. You have to look for a beginner friendly language if you already haven't, and try to learn them, understand them, take one topic at a time so that you don't overwhelm yourself. Because when you try to learn one thing, then you are like, oh my gosh, when am I ever going to finish? Because there's so much to learn. Even after a long time where I'm as a software engineer, I still find new things about things I already know. So don't overwhelm yourself. Zoom in on one topic at a time. And this is one thing I also do. If I try to understand something and it's taking a while, I look for maybe YouTube tutorials. People are very open with their knowledge these days. You see YouTube video where somebody is breaking it down. And then there are also documentations. Maybe, for instance, for Java, any function or anything that comes out like a new version, you see somebody where it's listed, and then you can go and look for it specifically to understand how people are using it. So this is how you can start. Learn the basic, pick something, zoom in one topic at a time, so that you would not be overwhelmed by what you have to do, and start building your portfolio. You have to create, because when you want to get this opportunity, they will ask you, they want to know what you've done, to be honest. They want to see your projects. And if you are just entering as a software engineer, you don't probably have any projects. For me, I can say, oh, I did this at Access Bank, I did this, and but this is how they will know that you know what you need to do. Because, for instance, for a beginner, there nobody is really asking you to build heaven and earth, to be honest. They just also want to see the zeal, they want to test your knowledge, and then they want to know that you have the basic skill. For instance, if you are entering a job, you need to know how to use the basic Git command. You should be familiar with it. And imagine creating a GitHub account. You're already trying to push, you're pulling, you're already cloning. So you're already familiar with these things. And I think it will go a long way when you build that kind of portfolio. And they will see your zeal. It shows like you're interested, you're passionate about this career. And understanding the concept, which is very important. Like I said, there are a lot of things to do, but you need to understand how these things work together. Also, things like, as a beginner software engineer, they don't expect you probably not be doing system design interview. You would be asked things like the basic concept, like maybe, do you know something about object oriented programming? Those are the things that you should focus your attention on, and how you would do encapsulation, for instance. How does inheritance work? Or maybe those kind of concepts that maybe would, at the end of the day, would make you be a better developer. They want to know that you have the right foundation, which is why you also need to understand this, how to write test cases. Because um, as a developer, you have to also write test cases for your code. So you should make it an habit. Even in those code you are putting to GitHub, put test cases there. Let them see that you're already thinking in that time, in that sense of how to build in a real organization, and it will show a lot of your skills. And I'm trying to skip and be faster. I don't want to take too much of your time, because I know you have questions. So I will do my best to be fast from now. And contribution, sharing your learning, it's very important. Timi said I don't really do a lot online. To be honest, I don't. I wish I could, to be honest, but recently, I'm a mom of two. I'm very busy. I don't even have time to finish the current job I have. I try my best to now add on top. So I just try. But before now, when I was in Access Bank, I had a blog. When I started learning Java, I write about Java, I write about encapsulation. I have like this WordPress blog thing. And I always share these things. Everything I learn, I try to put it there. In at Adyen, I was part of the team that does internal training. We also have people within Adyen that want to move from non-software engineering role to engineering role. I was one of the tutors there. So I would teach them how they can write code, how they can do these things. So sharing is actually important, because it also validates your own learning. So if you know something, you don't know how much you know it until you have to teach it. So sometimes it's also good, even if not to share publicly, but maybe in your own short, small group, sharing your learning would also help you to validate and to also learn more. Maybe if you even make a mistake, then you can know that, oh, and those are the ones that sticks the most, the blunders you make when you are teaching someone, you're like, no, now I get it, I can never make that mistake again. So don't be afraid to say, oh, until I know everything. You should try as as soon as possible to try sharing your learning. If there's any open source project, if you are looking for what to do, those are also opportunities to contribute. If you are looking for a small project, there are always like open source projects to contribute to. You can volunteer also. Maybe there are groups, maybe all these conferences, they are looking for people. You can join, because it helps also to network and learn from people. Then you understand what people are doing, their project, things they are working on. So that's what I would say. And in terms of getting your dream job, to be honest, If I would give an advice on getting your dream job, it would be doing all those things you've done before, but also now being active, Personally, you have to put yourself out there in terms of networking. Like I said, there are events like this one where you meet other ambassadors, you're already networking. Maybe some companies are hosting, maybe Flutterwave is hosting something. You are there, then you learn quickly about opportunities that are there. There's LinkedIn, there are jobs you can subscribe to. You can set up notification for job opportunity around maybe interning or anything you want to do, and then or take it upon yourself to go to company website that you are interested in. If you want to work at Netflix, you can already be looking at what the requirements are, and then look at, okay, this job I want, okay, what do I need to do to get here, what are they looking for, and that can also help you. Most of the time, one thing you need to know is also that companies also have these blogs where they talk about the engineering problems or things they've solved. Those are also things that will help you learn more about those companies you're applying for. So that's how to also find a job. And recruiters, there are recruiters for different companies online. You can look for maybe HR, whatever company, or recruiter, this company, and message them. Also, recruitment company, like I said, getting Adyen was such an interesting story because I just submitted. I don't know if you, okay, I'm not mentioning, but if it's important, then I can share. I joined there because a friend told me about them. And then I joined, I put my CV there because I was thinking of relocating to Canada. And then that was how, they will see your CV and then they saw me as a match for Adyen. And that was how I got it. Just put your CV there. Who knows? Something can come up. And those are also other opportunity. And then you have to get ready for interview. You have to practice for coding. As a software engineer, it's not smiling out there. You have to show that you really know what you are doing, because they are going to test you for your coding. It could be take home assignment, it could be real life coding, which is also not the easiest for most people, to be honest. No matter how much experience, even if I would write a live coding, I still need to prepare. So you have to practice for your coding exercise. You have to keep practicing. You have places like Leet Code, Akarang. You should work on your resume because it presents you before you get there, and also learn more about the company culture. A lot of companies would even be okay if you pass fairly in their technical as a beginner. But if you are very strongly outside of the company culture, which is also not good for you, if it's a culture that is totally like opposite to what you stand for, you should definitely not go. But you should learn about it, because all these soft skills they are asking, it's about that's the way they work. So you need to understand it. The company culture is quite important, not to cram it, of course, but to, because there could be example scenarios. They can ask you a scenario based question, and based on the culture, that's how you will know how to respond to it, because this company would not take this company would take this. They've listed it there, then that can inform you about how to respond in terms of the behavioral part of the interview. So, and lastly, it gets to the offer part. Accepting an offer is the sweetest thing. You get that mail, you say yes, but sometimes there are also rejection, and I think that's always the downside of applying and putting yourself out there. Maybe you already built excitement, maybe you even got to the last stage. To be honest, it happens, and life should not end there. Today, I'm grateful for a lot of places I applied for that didn't say yes to me, that sent me like, oh, sorry, we regret to inform you. I also regret to inform them. So this is the part you should also know how to handle, because it could be demoralizing and it could block you from your career. So don't let it get in your way. Rejection is part of it. Even the best engineers have been rejected at the point. I don't think I've ever seen anybody boldly say, oh, I've never gotten a rejection in my life. Maybe they don't really put themselves out there. So it's part of it. So just push through it and learn from it, and don't let it put you down. You can think about it one day and just success is the best solution, revenge in a way to rejection. So you tell your rejection that I will still make it. So that's the way to move forward. And lastly, negotiation. even though you are just entering the job market, it's also important because negotiation can affect your morale. If you don't get a good negotiation done at the beginning, when you get on the job, it might affect how you perform because you are not happy. And you can, if you are not happy, you can't do your best job. So also it's important, even as a beginner, to be sure you get the right thing. So yeah, that is all I have today, and I'm happy to take any questions you have. In summary, I would say at the end of the day, it's your career and you should just go for it, to be honest. Don't wait till you are perfect, or you can do 1001 thing. I think you can start where you are and just be honest with yourself. If there's something that you think you can improve on in terms of skill, go for it. Keep adding those value to yourself, because at the end of the day, you as a software engineer, you are your own brand. At the end of the day, you are selling yourself, you are selling your skill. So whatever you learn, even if you get the job now or later, it will be yours. So don't stop. That's Thank you for listening. I think we can take questions now.
Thank you so much, Gbonjubola. That was really a, I mean, that was so practical. That was so insightful and also inspirational. I know that just before we had our call this afternoon, that's the first call we had, and then before this one as well, I was speaking to one of our campus leads. Reach out to me, and they were talking about how they had this challenge organizing an event that they were looking to organize, and they wanted practicality. They wanted people who people really had like a very not so conventional starting point, and they'll be willing to share their story, and they didn't know how to get started. And then they just called to say, how do I do this, how do I do that? And I referenced the career series and how the planning team has been planning the career series, how we've been very particular, even to the tiniest of the tiniest details, right? From the design to the kind of speakers that we reached out to, speakers that who had interesting stories, inspirational stories to tell, right? Just while you were speaking, when you said, "Oh, I graduated from Lautech, I had my MS in Unilag," I saw people reacting to say, "Oh, I'm a student of Lautech, oh, this and that." I'm like, I mean, it makes sense to see that
Yeah.
wherever you're coming from, whether you schooled in Ogbomoso, you schooled in Zaria, you schooled in the, you can just do anything you want to do. You can get to wherever you want to get to, right? People would often say the sky is just your starting point, and I mentioned to the person, I said, you know what, we've done our home part for this career series. We've spoken to our speakers, and we've shared what we want them, what we want them to speak on, right?
Yeah.
And ensure you join today's career series and look at how the speaker for today would share her own journey. And you did just that perfectly. You started with sharing your journey with us. It was so the same with NEA Team from Spotify, the marketing manager at Spotify that we had on Friday, that spoke on starting a career in marketing, right? And I mean, again, we cannot but thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. It's been really inspirational.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So a huge thank you to you again, for sharing, for your time and that insights. And we like I mentioned also that the audience have been so engaged. I was checking to the comment sections and I was seeing a couple of engagement, even on WhatsApp groups. I've been seeing spikes, and I mean, oh, thank you, Timmy, thank you, Cowrywise, for organizing this and all of those things, right? So very quickly, we'll just take a few questions. So this is your opportunity to ask specific questions about your career journey, challenges, or anything that you would particularly love to hear, or you would love to hear her perspective on, right? And I mean, I started to see a couple of questions earlier, but we will just do this so that we can. Okay, let's do this. So if you have questions, you can start turning them in, and I will just go ahead to highlight your question so we can so I mean our speaker can answer those questions. So why we are with a few questions. Um, okay, so let's speak. I think I've started seeing a few questions. Okay, let's pick this one. Yeah, so Elijah says, I'm looking to go into app development. What is it like, I guess, as a software engineer to work on your products? Do you work together with app developers with a single code base?
Okay. I think the setup is different per company. Different places I've worked at have different setup. For instance, in Flutterwave, most people have like different code bases. Like if you are building an API, you are building on your own code base. Like the core engineering team has their own code base that you can add. So the way the structure is quite different. But at Adyen, even as big as Adyen has, is they have like a single repo. So they have like a single code base. Even code outside your team, you can see it. So depends on, and then yeah, they have different pros and cons. So depending on the company you are, also at Netflix, there are microservices for different things. So that means different microservice, we have different code bases, and depending, so it depends, to be honest, depending on the company you are. So if it's a company that wants to share the same code base like Adyen, it will all be together. It has its pros and cons, but other companies will do like a microservice as way, and then you can easily deploy. So if you do single code base, you have to align your deployment and all of that. But if you have like independent code bases, then different people can ship independently, when you're pushing to production. So I would say it depends really on the company.
Thank you so much. That was so precise. Yes, the next question from Emmanuel.
Mm. So engineer now as a software.
So he says, I'm currently in a very junior role as a data analyst, and
Mm.
now as a software engineer. What specific skills or experience? So I'm guessing they're saying that what are the specific skills that helped you?
Yeah. Okay. What are the specific skills? Aside Java, Java is the language I write in. So I think Java is my number one tool that helped me, because adding, for instance, I am a Java engineer. I'm at Netflix because I write Java. So that's like my number one thing that's gotten me to every I've gotten to. But in terms of skills, the soft skills, I would say is people, because to be honest, the way I get like opportunities for maybe other things, it's because maybe somebody referred you, or maybe you've worked on something before. For instance, like I was sharing how I moved from Adyen to Netflix because a friend of mine was really on my case. I would say it was because we have a good working relationship. He sees your work, and then he feels, oh, you can really do better. You can do better, And then I would say people moving you, and then the way you do your job, delivering your best job, we open the door for the next. So that's generally in terms of the non technical skill, doing your job best right now, and then next opportunity will show.
Okay. Okay. Yes. The next question.
I just started learning SC as part of my machine learning. It tells me, yeah, do you think front end engineer? Okay, so you are trying to be an AI engineer, and then you're asking if front end development is needed for that. I would say no, because as a AI engineer, most of the time you are doing like a lot of machine learning. But of course, maybe you will need to, depending, I don't know, depending on the product you are building, if it requires maybe an interface and you don't have like a front end person, you might need to jump in a bit. But I think generally for an AI engineer, I would say maybe learning Python, working on data, it will mostly be a lot of backend, and other people will be consuming what your output is. So I don't think you really need a lot of front end development, to be honest. But if the product requires like front end and you are the solo engineer there, then maybe you would have to also do a bit of front end.
Hmm. Thank you. So Unique says you did a perfect job. I mean, obviously, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, so just to answer your question directly, Eunice, yes, she did so well in speaking to how she started and speaking to the initial part of her journey, how she started writing code from Lautech, moved into Access Bank, UBA, and then eventually Florida Wave, Hedian, and then Netflix. So yeah, you might want to watch the first few minutes of the session to get that recap, right? Um, okay, so next question from Elijah, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, no, I think we've answered that question already.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, another question from Godwin, speaking to how to build the right portfolio. So he says, what do you think a good project should show or communicate? What would you say
Okay.
are the ingredients of building a quality project?
Yeah, I would say number one, writing clean code. Readable code is like number one basis. You should write code that anybody can read, and then because you would usually work in a team, and if I'm on the recruiting side, the interviewing side rather, I want to be seeing that you are able to write a code that another person can read. So making it readable, the way you structure your code in terms of maybe how you call your methods, like so that it doesn't turn to a spiral spring. That is also important. So if you want to also build a quality project, like you're saying, you would have like maybe test cases. You write test case for each of your methods, and you will make sure that you can test them, and then you will show skills in terms of maybe all the major concepts. You writing reusable code so that you don't keep writing the same code everywhere, doing the same thing. A bit of like inheritance, how you define your objects, what kind of relationship mapping you have in terms of your object relationship. So those it's a lot of things that goes into it. But I think for a beginner, I would want to see a clean code. I would want to see how you structure it so that maybe you have like your object defined somewhere, calling your services, how you call those services, how you handle and plan for error handling, logging, those kind of things. I think those are the things I want to see that would differentiate you from others.
Thank you so much. Um, so Adebayo says that when you worked, I mean, I can see that there are two different questions or two different and then it says, when you worked at Access Bank, what level of skill did you have? And it also says that are there still companies are taking trainees at that level? So yes, I would answer I just want to briefly answer the
Yeah,
other bit of it. Every year, Access Bank and almost all Nigerian banks taking graduate. If not just every year, I think they do it every 3 months or 6 months right
yeah,
now. They're taking graduate trainees, management trainees, executive trainees. You probably don't even need to have any experience, really,
yeah.
right? Some other companies like Florida Wave, InterSwitch, they're taking graduate trainees as well. Some other companies like KPMG, PwC. In fact, KPMG currently has graduate trainee opening. Deloitte released theirs yesterday. PwC had theirs opened up until I think Friday or something last week, right? Ernst and Young also had theirs open up until earlier in January. So yeah, there are still companies that do that. But yeah, I would allow Gbonjubola to pick up from here.
I think you answered it perfectly. I would just talk to the level of skills I have. Like you said, like maybe 0.5 in 100, uh, okay, maybe I should say 10% because I was a computer science graduate. Come on, I should know a little. But yeah, I don't know enough for the role I had, to be honest. So I learned on the job, most of what I learned. And like I said, during my school year, I'd learned a bit about Java. I'd learned a bit about building websites, but they were just in pieces. I cannot really put them together. So I would say I was just like almost nothing, to be honest. I learned really at Access Bank on the job.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's really the problem. That's really the what's it called? The problem that graduate trainees, management trainees, and even undergraduate internships are poised to solve. Right? You
Yeah.
don't need to have any experience. You don't need to. You just need to have that grit, that readiness and determination to want to do this, and
Yeah.
that would really reflect in your application. I
Yes.
mean, a smart recruiter will know that this person would do so well if you teach them what they need to do. So
Exactly.
I can see some other questions, but they all look like the same thing, and I wouldn't want us to have us speak to each of them one after the other. So I will just merge them into one. The first one was speaking to challenges or mistakes that we should look out for. The second one is speaking to being a beginner with no previous experience. That what advice would you give? And I think this one particularly, this one particularly sums up every other one, saying that as a software developer from a non-software bachelor's degree, how do I approach data structures and algorithm (DSA)
Ah,
lead
that's a
code?
very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. First, I would say even me, there's a course on Coursera that I followed when I was really serious about DSA for interviews, right? So even though I do DSA in my day-to-day coding, when you also want to do interview, you need to, revise and all of that. So there are a couple of courses, data structure and algorithm on Coursera. They're actually very free. And I followed those courses. They will teach you everything you need to know. They will teach you the theoretical and how to apply it. So I first started with that course so that I actually have the knowledge of why I'm using this. So if I'm using a set or a map, why do I need a map in this case? So that course, or maybe I need a tree. Why? When do I need a tree? When do I need a map? When do I need this? So that course helps me to understand also again that these are different use cases. So I would say if you follow that kind of course, it's on Coursera. I can find the link later and maybe send to you if you want. I think that would help you to get the basic knowledge. And then you have to go to lead code. Lead code, sometimes when you also submit, or even before, you can also see explanation on why the code is written that way. You would understand the time complexity, the space complexity, how to calculate it, also, with all those things. So in the course also, you can learn how to calculate those time complexity, space complexity. And on lead code, if it's where you do the practical work as if it's an interview. So when you do those tests and maybe you pass it or you need more explanation, you see other people's solution, then you get to learn over and over again. So that's what I would advise.
Thank you so much. I mean, like I like to mention to members of the what's it called, ambassadors community who are building a career in software engineering. DSA is something you most likely would not do without, especially if you are looking to work, say, in big tech. You're looking
Yeah.
to work at a JP Morgan, looking to work at a Buffer, a Netflix, any of the fan companies. Really, DSA is something that you cannot do without. In fact, it would be a part of your recruitment process. I think maybe stage 3 or stage 4 or something, right? I know this because I've had to follow up with a few members of the ambassadors community and a few friends. At some point, I was also having to write front end engineering, but I mean, it's probably not something I want to do. So um, yeah. So we have about 12 more minutes to taking questions. So we'll still continue to taking the questions we have. So I kind of see this question as like another valid question. The case when they say that, I mean, I like to say to members of the ambassadors community that I am responsible so much to you because I have personal responsibility to ensure that you avoid some of the mistakes that I made as an undergraduate, right? So when I see questions like this, I mean, I like to touch on them. So yeah, you have the floor.
Yeah. So, what advice would I give to young people in university today? To be honest, I would say have to one. Try and have to one to set your, yeah, to be honest, all these graduate training opportunity we are saying, they have like strong requirements. You need two one, that would
Second
already give you a platform. So having two one, if you want to get a job within Nigeria, I think that is important. I would also say in this day that internet is easily accessible, you can start already to learn the skills you need in the industry. So start small, start following a course, building project like those things I said, creating a portfolio on GitHub, starting, going to events, so that you understand more about the industry. So if I'm in university today, what I would do is to still try and have the 2-1 I had. I would try all my best to have it again, because to be honest, that helped me to get Access Bank immediately after school. And I would also want to maybe learn more before I enter the job industry, because to be honest, it wasn't easy. I said it's super sweet today how my Access Bank journey went, but there are times where I crewed, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing. To be honest, it doesn't have to be like that for you. I'm just saying that for me, I would want to learn before. If I knew I was going into that career path, the problem is I didn't even know what I was going to really do at the end. But if you already know, you already have the edge, so start learning in that line so that it's easier for you when you get the job. So
Yeah, I mean, again, just to reiterate, most important thing, gets a second class offer,
yeah,
right? So if you're on anything less than second class offer right now, you know that you need to buckle up. You
yeah,
need to burn in fact, you're no longer burning the night candle anymore. You're burning the candle in the day, in the afternoon, in the morning, in the night. Every time you're burning night candle to ensure that you get nothing less than the second class upper, right? Even people who get second class upper, it's not so very easy. Then imagine if
yes,
even you're getting anything lower. You see
yeah,
recruitment adverts today, and then you see the criteria, you see the requirements, and then you see, oh, you must not be less than XYZ age, you must have nothing less than second class up, and then before applying itself, you're already out of the pool of people that they should look. So yeah, you want to ensure that you do nothing less than that. Um, Speaking to rejection, somebody says that how do you have a strategy for handling rejection? And yeah, and I'm very curious, really.
to be honest, I don't. There was I would say initially, nobody likes to be rejected to start with. Nobody likes rejection, especially if you are doing your best, you feel like you know your onions, then why are you rejecting me? There was even the most annoying one. I was just like, oh, sometimes we want to do interview just for the sake of it, so you are back in the pool, so you test your interviewing skill. And then the rejection was like, oh, I'm not even, it's like, I'm not a senior yet in software engineering. I'm like, for what? When you hear that kind of word, it might almost talk to you like, you look at yourself, that is this me? But the best thing to do is to understand that it was what they saw. It was just that interview. People have bad days. I've had interview that I failed, live coding, that I messaged the guy because I could not sleep in the night after. And I'm like, I know what I did wrong. It could be that, in real life, if I have that problem, I know I would solve it, because I would just take a break and go back to it. But when you have 45 minutes, don't reduce yourself to it. You are more than just that 45 minutes of interview. So that's why I tell myself, like, even if I pass it or I fail it, I'm going to get another opportunity and I'm going to pass it. You keep trying. So anything could go wrong. There are good days, there are bad days, there are days when one bug is in your code and you debug it for so long. Imagine if that's an interview. That could be your interview day. And there are days when you are just flowing and everything's just going good. Just take it as one of the bad days and don't reduce yourself to that maybe 1 hour or 45 minutes of interviewing. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Awesome. What I mean in summary, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? If
Yeah. To be
it's
honest. To
yeah.
be honest. Yeah.
Next question says, um, yeah, I particularly enjoy this question, especially after reading No Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention, right? And I kind of understand where this person is coming from. It's a freaking performing pressure environment.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think there's any
Yeah.
company in the world that I know of that has high performance culture. So each time I'm like, so yeah, I think I want to hear from you.
Okay. To be honest, one thing about Netflix is that even if you are smart, it will still shake you. Like there are a lot. That's one thing. I realized that, and I think when you start appreciating it, to understand that I would rather be amongst a lot of people like this because they are challenging me to even be better. That's a perspective that I have. So in terms of pressure, I will not really say I'm too pressured, to be honest. It's a good challenge. I would call it a good challenge. My role at Netflix right now is a senior software engineer with the partners. So what I do is a much of like a consulting roles to the partners. So when we have partners like the telcos, the TV providers, and all of those, so they have like set-top boxes. Before you can have Netflix app on a set-top box, your set-top box must comply to some standard. So like in fact, the interesting thing for that career switch for me is that all my previous experience have been in finance and payments, and now I'm in a streaming company, and then I'm like, okay, so what do I do? So I need to understand the audio encoding, streaming in terms of audio,
Mm,
video sync. So I had that challenge, and I think having a supportive team had helped me. And also, I have my own strengths. I was there. I was also recruited because I have other things that I add to the team. Even if I'm not strong in streaming, I'm strong in payments, and there's a payment side of it. So I I I tend towards my strengths while I build up my weakness. If
mm,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I'm living in Netflix, and I think it's a very nice organization to work with because it challenges you because everybody in the team has good ideas on things to do, and then you're like, okay, let me also come up with something nice. And in terms of tech stack, Netflix front end thing is on the TV, right? It's TV, it's on your screen.
Yeah.
So the front end we are doing is what you are saying, like the placement, the design that comes up when things are moving. So I would say front end still requires JavaScript. I don't really do the front end part, but I'm not sure. I think it depends also on the team where you are. But we have the JavaScript with Node.js in backend, but on the front end, I'm not sure exactly the framework that we are using, but JavaScript is majorly what happens on the front end. But yeah, on the back end, I know more because it's C. It's C because we are doing embedded on terms of what happens there. So front end, yeah,
Mm,
you have to check the job role to be sure. To be honest, I don't want to say what I'm not sure of. Yeah,
mm. Thank you so much. Funny, I can't even remember. I know I was looking through a front end engineering role. I think there's this internship they do every year, and I was
yeah,
just scanning through the front end engineering. But I mean, I remember seeing Java. I can't remember the other details
yeah,
anymore. Right. And I mean, for this person that asked this question, and for every one of you, if you are curious enough to know that what exactly is so special about Netflix, what's it called, environment or work environment, you might want to take some time to just check Google search engine to just type, what does Netflix culture look like, or and then you'll find a couple of blog articles about, I mean, even from Netflix themselves, right, and then a couple of other platforms. Yeah, I also know that for me, I'm not an engineer, but I mean, I'm a very inquisitive person.
yeah,
I like to see, or I like to read far and wide beyond what I do, right?
yeah.
And I read engineering blogs a lot. In Nigeria, my favorite engineering blog would be between Paystack and Cowrywise's engineering blog. And in the world, that would be Netflix. I had to subscribe and then read the one on Medium and then the one on Netflix blog itself. So I think as somebody that is very very interested in wanting to like a Netflix standard engineering, you might also want to look out for that. Um, so this person is also asking an interesting question. Can
Mm,
I mean, I would like say maybe help the person rephrase a bit. Can I switch from my accounting profession to software engineering, and
yeah.
what that look like for me?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I have a friend that did that here in the Netherlands. She's now a data engineer. So she moved from finance role, and then she was interested in development. She started learning while she was in her role as a finance person. She was doing like learning Python and SQL, and then at a point she got like an opportunity to make the switch because it was almost like I wouldn't say it's an internship. It was almost like an opportunity that um like a starter, like it's designed majorly for people that are making the switch kind of. So it's like a boot camp for like 3 months and then you start. So she was lucky to also get that opportunity. But I think you can. I've seen a lot of people make that switch. And like I said, to be honest, as a software engineer, it doesn't matter where you are coming from. What really matters is if you are what you show during the interview. So if you have an accountant that have a accounting background and now you want to move to a software engineering role, you have to also try as much as possible to have things on your CV that reflect all the efforts you've been making in terms of the new role you want to go to, so that when your CV even gets there, it doesn't get bounced. People move like that. I think it's common, to be honest, in this world. So, and you're also asking what's the benefit and impact of making that career switch. I think this is also dependent on you, what you really enjoy doing. If you like that challenge of being a software engineer, then it's a joyful job to do. Then you'll be happy that you make that switch. And of course, like I said, software engineering is solving real world problems. And if you like to do that, definitely that's a lot of impact in that sense. So it's possible to make the move. I will advise that before you make the move, you already start learning things around that, building your portfolio around that, maybe partnering in some projects and looking for opportunities of internship, things like that, to make the switch easily for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, even at Cowrywise, we have people who, I mean, one of our high US engineer, that's mobile engineering, he studied something around, I think, food science and technology, right? I mean, and then he's doing software engineering as a mobile engineering, specifically iOS, that's iPhone operating system, right? And on the other hand, we have our finance manager who studied, I think, is it petroleum or petrochemical engineering? I mean, can you see the I
Yeah,
mean the divergence or something? So it doesn't particularly, you can always move, you can always do what you want. Nobody's stopping you, right? You're the only one stopping yourself, really.
yeah.
So we spent 3 extra minutes and we still have a few more questions. But before we go ahead, I want to know what you think. Do you think you would want to answer these questions or
Yeah,
you're not
definitely.
sure?
I would like to answer as much as we can within, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so let's say a few more minutes and we should be
yeah.
done with all of these other questions. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I'm also trying to skip to question like similar questions to what you have asked already. I mean, what you've answered rather.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is, yeah, this is a question that I'm also quite curious, and I'm also on behalf of the person curious about. I guess this is, I'm not sure if it's the same person, but I guess this person is a student of Lautech.
So I should have like now this is personal. Okay, so how do I ascertain my proficiency as a mobile developer so as to perform optimally in any organization which I happen to come across? Yeah, to be honest, I would say understanding the major concepts like behind what you do. You are a mobile developer. I'm not sure what language you are using, but already knowing the onions of the language that you have, that you are really your major language is important, so that when you get to the company you are going, that you come across, you would not be shocked, you know. And also, I would say following trends. You know, maybe you can subscribe to journals or blogs of people in your space who are doing a lot of things. So if you see somebody that is in a mobile developer that writes and you feel they have content, you can like I subscribe to Java blog to also get like updates about things that are happening around that. So you can subscribe to that. Sometimes they talk about why you should use something versus something. You are learning passively, and when you need it, then you remember, oh, I've read something. And also you learn through others. It's almost like reading a book sometimes. Like even though you've not experienced it, if somebody explained the project they've worked on, the complexity, the decisions they've made, then you are learning through that experience. And when you are there in maybe another organization, even if you have not worked there, you have the knowledge in a way. You just need to start working on it. So I would say learn from the shoulders of others, subscribe to blogs or maybe a newsletter of anything in that space so that you can keep yourself up to date, know about your language very well, so that when the right opportunity come, you can also show up correctly for the organization you are in.
Yeah, thank you. That's the campus lead at Lautech, Enoch, the campus lead of the
Oh,
ambassadors community. I just confirmed.
nice.
Um, so there was one. This seems like a technical question, and I'm not particularly sure. So
Yeah, I'm up for it. How does changes in Java edition affect code base and workflow? That's a good question. First thing first, I want to say if Java version change and your company has not changed, then you can be there for the longest time. But the only thing is that it will be unsupported. If you stay on an old version for too long, then you will not get Java support. Then it will be prone to a lot of security things. So how does the changes in Java edition affect code base and workflow? In terms of that, I would say, for instance, if you are using, maybe the last time you upgraded, you were, let's say you are on the oldest one, maybe like Java 11 or something, and then you now change your JDK, you move it to maybe Java 17 or 21 or something. There will be a lot of change. First thing first, before I make that change, I'll go and read the change document, so you see what is changing. There's always documentation. You can say Java 17 my versus this, and then you will see methods that have been deprecated, so that they can, if they deprecate a method, for instance, they will tell you an alternative method to use, and they will probably tell you why it is being deprecated. So even if it affects your code base, it will start marking it as deprecated. That's one thing you foresee, for instance. Or it will be suggesting to you that you should replace maybe a traditional for loop with the new one, so it will give you like suggestions in your code base. It might not force it, but yeah. But if you want to do like, if there's really an important vulnerability that have been changed, then you have to move to the new change. Otherwise it will affect, it can break your code base. So usually when we are doing like upgrades like this, you create like maybe a new repo so that it doesn't affect your main branch, and then you try things and try and see, as it becomes cleaner and cleaner, write tests, make sure that's why you should have testable code, so that when those changes happen, when you run your test, you can see the part that is failing, and then you can go back and upgrade it. So yeah, that's
thank you so much, Gbonjubola. This is one other question from Ibrahim.
yeah. In the current age of AI. Yeah, to be honest, I've been telling people that if I want to go back to school, I would probably focus on machine learning, because I know that's the next big thing in terms of AI and all of those things. So I would say you are a junior software engineer in the current age of AI. Are you saying it in terms of maybe AI replacing our job? Because I've been hearing that a lot. Or in terms of, should you move towards AI? So let me answer it in those two folds. So if you are saying it in terms of, in this current age of AI that would replace us, what should we do with the junior software engineer? I'll say fear not, because we are not there yet. Maybe in the next set of, maybe the next 10 or 20 years or so, maybe we'll be there. But right now, you will still have the opportunity to move and get an opportunity. And even when AI would be more in control, we still need somebody to ask the AI to do something. So the job of software engineer will still kind of be there. But if you want to say you want to be ahead, then maybe you should also start thinking about, learning more about how you can optimize your code with AI, a lot of things that you can already do, or maybe simplifying things, maybe with AI in what you are doing, also learning new things, and also learning about generally the world of AI, so that if you need to jump in the future, if this career path of software engineer or developer becomes like obsolete, at least then you have the tool to move to the next thing. But to be honest, I think it will still take a while. But of course, it's going to be there to make our life easier. That's how I see it, at least at this point. Yeah.
Awesome. I think we have two more questions, and that will be all.
Okay.
Um, yeah, this person says that. Okay, so I think let's just do this one this way, cause they I can't scroll.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to do that that way because the person sent in two different messages, like a
Oh, okay.
continuation. So it says that TypeScript has been my primary language for the past few years,
Yeah.
and I have plans to work in companies that still use legacy systems, and I don't want to learn languages like Java or C Sharp because I prefer Golang. What do you suggest?
Yeah, then you should look for opportunity around where they do go land, to be honest. If you don't want to look, if a company uses Java and or C Sharp, they'll probably also not want to move to Golang. So I think the best bet is to tailor your search to companies that use Golang.
I mean,
That's
I'm not sure why the person added Gen Z, but that's
yeah, like we are old, right? I know I'm old. Thank you.
But yeah, thank you. I mean, that's rightfully so. A company wouldn't change their code base or tech stack because they want to
Yeah,
hire somebody. So
yeah,
you probably will be the one to you probably will be the one to want to need to change your stack if you are really keen on joining the company,
yeah.
right? So yeah, in that case, you look out for companies that still use legacy um languages, right? I think the last one says, as a Java engineer, okay, yeah, this one also similar to one other one. They are the same thing really. What basic knowledge of the language has gotten you to where you are,
Yeah.
and how were you able to prove that you understand that concept? And the second one, which also seems quite similar, says that was asking. I can't find it right now, but was saying something around beyond the experience. What were the other things that you did that got you to where you are today?
Mm, okay. I would answer on one, and the proof that I understand those concepts, I would say would be the product, like the results, you know. When you are building a product and then the product goes live, or maybe you are doing an integration and you build an API that is able to handle big projects, you know. In the early days of Flutter, I joined Flutterwave as one of their first engineers. I think we were just about 20 something then. And we were building everything from the scratch. We were doing API integrations and all of those things. And those were the things that were used to do like transactions and all of those things. When you build an API and then you see it doing millions of transactions, that's enough. That's proof for me, you know. I'm happy to say that I was part of that. So that is how you prove, because your code will always be tested, right? Because your company would always grow. Hopefully, that's what we want. We don't want to work where it doesn't grow. So imagine when Flutterwave was 20 something and then Flutterwave started growing. Of course, there are things you would improve as time goes on, but at least it's able to also withstand the growth with time and all of those things. So I think those are things. And when you launch your project, those are things that would show that you understand, and other people will also review your code, right? In a standard organization, there's code review. People see how your thought process works, and that would also prove that you know what you are doing, right? So I think those are the way to prove. And in terms of basic knowledge of the language, I think it's just those things, to be honest. Make your code clean, make it less complicated for people to understand, make it testable, write small chunks, reusable codes. And I think just keep it simple and nice, generally.
Hmm.
What's the other question? Sorry, my
The question was saying something around beyond experience. How did you get to where you are today? I'm still trying to
yeah.
see that
Yeah,
question.
I would say beyond experience, I would say or or is it just that helped you move from junior to senior role? And what do hiring manager prioritize for senior role? Yeah, aside experience, you also have to be confident and be able to communicate all of those things. To become a senior, they're expecting you to take lead of some of those things, right? Some of the decision you have to make decision. In fact, in my current role at Netflix, I make a lot of decisions for Netflix. So I'm working with a partner who is trying to work with Netflix. I'm the one telling them how they should architect with the integration they are doing with Netflix. I'm the one telling them, oh, this is what you should do. I think um, understanding how things work and being able to communicate it will differentiate you. And junior and senior, I think you also become senior based on how how much of the way you can contribute to the project innovations also sometimes, and say how you can improve and also help others. So you, when you become a senior, you also have responsibility to help others, other juniors around you, to also scale up to senior level. So I would say in terms of skill, is mostly to be more assertive in terms, aside the technical skill, be more assertive, be able to communicate, and also contribute to larger tech discussions. Don't be too shy to, to, when some people, maybe when they are big groups, they're like, oh, I can't say my ideas, and maybe somebody else will now speak up your ideas. Then you have to be able to come up, show up for yourself. Then you are showing leadership characteristics. People already saying that, okay, you know what you're doing. You are volunteering to help. They are always like house get job in the team, things that nobody wants to do. You are looking at how to optimize things, going back to things and say, oh, I noticed we do this, can we do this instead, suggesting. Those are the other things that will set you apart, to say, oh, you are now ready to be a senior. And yeah, and what do hiring managers prioritize for senior role? I think for senior role, like I was saying, for entry level, they will be looking at concepts, understanding. I think for senior, they expect you to have a bit of what we call this, the other part of DSA, system design. Yeah, you should be able to design a system. So as a senior, if I'm applying for a senior role, I should be able to say, how can I implement a project from beginning to an end? They will expect you to be able to talk about the design. What would you need? Like, what kind of infrastructure do you think? Would you put this on a queue? Will you use a Kafka? How do you think about this? It doesn't, so in an interview like that, there's always going to be system design, where you build something and also look for possible issues. So when you are talking about it as a senior, they expected that you will see, oh, this could fail this way, and this is how we are going to mitigate it. So those are the things they will be looking for. And then they will be looking at your leadership potentials. Like, are you confident in your answers? Are you able to take feedback? Yeah, that's also important as a senior, to be able to take that. So yeah, I think those are.
Hmm. Yeah, that's all the questions that we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
And this is just to say again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for. In fact, you give us extra 20 minutes, and that's really really kind.
Thank you.
One thing we are very particular about is the impact. We are not just particular about wanting to do this just to tick a box. We've never been. It's never been about wanting to just tick a box as another regular yearly thing we do, right?
Mm,
We've in fact set up structures or set up systems in place for sustainability in a way where after this event, we're also going to pull up a recruitment form, application form for people to fill, people that are interested. After
yeah.
this session, they've decided to say that I think I want to be the career in software engineering. And they will pull out a recruitment form. People apply or register to be a part of the skill based teams. We've been running this since 2021.
Mm,
And people join these teams. We have somebody who is more experienced who will lead the team. I mean, not just one, sometimes two, sometimes three, depending on the size of the team. And then they will have a structured learning process over a period of 3 months, over a period of 6 months, depending on the level of the people in the team, depending on the team as well. I mean, we have design, we have marketing, we have software engineering. For software engineering, it'll probably take a bit longer. And then
Mm,
at the end of this training processes, or this training period rather, they go on to build a project, or they go on to build a relevant they will go on to build a relevant project that speaks to what they've learned,
yeah.
or that emanates from what they've learned rather, right? And after then we then have them pass through internship programs with Cowrywise and
Mm-hmm.
some of our partner companies, whether officially or unofficially. I mean, when I mean officially, we either reach out to these partner companies to say we have a pool of XYT campus ambassadors and they would
Mm-hmm.
like to and at your firm. And when I say unofficially, we mean, oh, we realize that this company needs internship position or internship. They have internship positions, right?
Yeah.
Internship
Yeah.
positions, and then we just guide members of the community to apply, right?
Mm-hmm.
We tell them we guide them. We have this close guiding system from resume to cover letter to interview preps and whatnot, right? And then they eventually get to apply. I mean, I don't. I like to say it every time that I don't think there's any Nigerian company, I mean, major Nigerian company, that you do not have a careers ambassador hat, whether
It's real.
previously or currently, whether as intern or full-time employees. You will always find a campus ambassador. And when I say campus ambassador, I'm not even speaking to people who just join and they are not doing anything. People who can stand up and say that the campus ambassadors program was a big contributor to why I'm at this company today, and it stems from um, impact-led sessions like this, right? We might not say tell our story a lot. We might not tell the story of impact, which is something we are looking to do a lot more this year, right? But this is for us or for me is a social enterprise, is a impact-driven community, and we cannot but thank you for being a part of the impact we are building. We cannot but thank you for the impact we are trying to make. Like, we're trying to shape the future of tens of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people across different parts of the country, right?
Yeah.
And again, on behalf of every one of us, the ambassadors community, Carriers as a company, we say thank you for sparing the last 1 hour, 53 minutes of your time. This is again,
Thank you for
for the
having.
never on Netflix. This is not so easy to come by. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure sharing my journey and everything. Thank you, everyone that asked questions too. Thank you for making this engaging. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Um, so yeah, Bojibola will be leaving us now. If you really enjoyed the session, can you just drop your favorite emoji in the chat box? Tell Bojibola thank you. Tell her that you really enjoyed the session. You enjoyed the fact that she was able to answer your question. And you find this session really, 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 really worth your time. And yeah, just drop your favorite emoji. Say it a word of thank you to her.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, yep. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Bajibola.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you and bye.
Bye. Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. Um, um, Whether you are still on the call right now or you joined at some point and then you left, thank you so much. I mean, I'm very confident. Even I learned, right? So I'm very confident that you must have learned a lot of things um, during Bojibola's talk or during Bojibola's presentation, as the case may be. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll be having a skill based. I mean, we've always had skill based teams rather since 2021, and we are not going to stop anytime soon. We would also continue that again this year. We would also continue that again this year, and by sometime in March, I think second week or third week in March, if you're a campus ambassador, right? This is exclusive for campus ambassadors. Career series is open to the public, open to everyone, right? But the skill based teams are very exclusive to campus ambassadors. I mean, it's one of the perks of being a campus ambassador, anyways. So if you're a campus ambassador and you're looking to start a career in software engineering or any of the other career tracks, design, marketing, finance, HR, that's human resources, any career track really, right? We have a skill-based team that will be opening up in the month of March, second or third week in March. We've always had skill-based teams since 2022 or 2021. I can't remember at this point. right? Well, and then we open up applications every year. We'll open application, and then we'll have quite a number of people. This year we are looking to have more than just one software engineering team, so we can accommodate a lot more people. We'll probably have as much as five different software engineering teams, and then we'll have two experienced software engineers that will be leading each of these teams, right? We'll have a structured learning format, and then would guide your learning process on over a period of over a period of 3 months, 6 months, depending on your career track and then depending on your current level. And it doesn't just end there. After learning, we don't go on to have internship placement, right? Whether interning with Cowrywise, interning with some of our partner companies, or sharing you internship opportunities, right? Even outside of Cowrywise and outside of our partner companies. We'll also be having the global internship series sometime in global internship training series sometime in. We are trying to bring it up earlier than usual this year. In in 2023, we had it in October. In 2024, we had that series in, I think, October as well. But we realized that we need to be a lot more optimal. We want to bring that a bit forward into July, right? So that because applications will typically open in July, August, and then close sometime in November. So we want to have that in the global internship series. We want to have that in July or maybe August this year, so that you can send in a solid application to solid global companies and even companies in Nigeria, right? So you want to look out for that. However, you can only get all of these things if you're a campus ambassador. So you want to ensure that you let me just pull that up so that you can yeah, you can see the ticker under the screen, right? Okay, I think there's a question in the chat box. I have a question for Timmy. Is that okay to ask here? Godwin, I'm not sure what question that is, but if it's about the ambassadors community, if it's about Cowrywise, if it's about career series, anything related to ambassadors community, you can ask that question now, right on the chat box. If it's a bit personal, you can send a message on Twitter or any other platform that you can find me. But that's if it's personal. If it's not personal, I would what's it called? Urge that you ask on this session. I can answer that question now. Um, oh yeah, thank you so much, Jesus Femi, for that comment. Right. Yeah, we are not in tech, but we are glad that some of the tips that we shared are applicable to your field. Um, no, our internships are paid. Our internship program are paid. We pay our interns. In fact, we pay them maybe even beyond industry standard. So you don't want to. But if you are speaking to the training program, no, it's not. When I say our internships are paid, I mean that we pay our interns. We pay them monthly stipends or monthly salary, whichever way you like to say. But if you are saying the skill-based teams, that's the group of people or the classes that you take, the learning curriculum and all of those things. No, they're absolutely free. The only way you need to the only thing you need to do to access those trainings is to become a Careers Campus Ambassador. And as you can see the ticker on your screen, to learn more about the Careers Ambassadors community, whether as a student or a graduate or a copper, and to learn about our different quality events and activities, you should check out cowrywise.com/ambassadors. Cowrywise.com/ambassadors. I'm still waiting for Godwin to see if he's gonna ask his question. Okay, it says it's personal. It's personal, and you reach out on LinkedIn. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this session today. We appreciate your presence, and we are very very confident that you've learned a lot from this session, right? Again, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Be sure to like this video. You are liking this video. You are helping it reach a lot more people that can access the value that Gbonjubola had shared with every one of us on this call today, right? Subscribing and turning on your notification would also help you get notified when we go live on the next session. The next session will be happening on Thursday, starting a career. I mean, maybe not starting a career in human resources. We termed that thriving in human resources strategies for growth and impact, right? So whether you're looking to start a career in HR, human resources, or you've already started, right? Um, or you want to understand how the world of HR really works, then be sure to join us by 6:30 p.m. on Thursday. 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, right on this YouTube channel. But most importantly, if you want to get the slides, if you want to get access to other opportunities, be sure to register so we can have your email address and always share these resources with you. So again, be sure to subscribe. We are glad to have you as a participant in this session. So you want to be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and so that you can get notified about other sessions. So again, even if you are coming back to watch this video, if you missed the live session and then somehow you stumbled on the recorded version, be sure to like and subscribe to be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Right. Thank you so much, everyone. And